Hi, Soni. We haven't chatted for a while, have we? Lots been going on. A lot has been going on. My planet's in retrograde, hasn't made it any simpler. I got a newsletter out about this, but I thought I'd put it on for my friends who don't like to read. Myself included. A lot of us have been feeling the need to cry. Clients, my friends, I'm getting these texts, and people are feeling crushing despair, uncontrollable crying, don't know why, just is. So I thought maybe want to talk about this a little bit, and I want to show you a way to help relieve this and to stop the, well, I mean, never stop crying, but at least temporarily for whatever that issue is. We cry for a lot of reasons, but if we're crying for joy, then we don't usually have to try and figure out what that is. But we're crying and we don't know why, which is what many people say, is generally because we're sad. We're sad about something. We're often grieving something. We grieve loss. So what did we lose? We lost time because of the screw-ups in our lives. We lost our childhood. We grieve for a content of a past memory. We grieve because we lost our power. We grieve because we felt shame. We grieve because we felt guilt. We have to, not the why, it's the what. Why is a story? The story is we have a loss, that's why we're crying. Something in the past has hurt us, and we feel a loss, and we want to get rid of this pain. That is the why. It's the what we have to find. We have to get to the what that triggered this emotion of shame, grief, abandonment, betrayal, lack of trust, whatever words we want to use to describe the incident of where we lost our power. Because we can't do anything about the past except acknowledge it and bring it into a different perspective where we can let go of the negative feelings and the beliefs, because some belief was created, some vow that is holding us back now, that's interfering with our life, or we wouldn't be crying. And the only place that we can change any of that is in the now. And we change that by realizing that vow, that postulate, that belief is no longer useful to us. We're not getting the outcome that we want. So we're going to let go of it. But we have to know what we're letting go of, okay? Pain, as I have repeatedly mentioned, is simply a messenger. And it's asking for your attention. It's saying, "Ooh, here, okay? I need some attention, please. Please give me some attention. Something's wrong. And you need to do something about it." And the more that you try to avoid that pain, the louder and louder and louder it's going to get until something just bursts. You You stuff it and you stuff it and you stuff it, and you've got physical problems and you've got emotional problems and you've got mental problems. Keeps me in business. Okay, fine. But you can find a better way to spend your money. It feels awful. So what do? Well, the emotion, the sadness is a messenger. So follow the messenger. Find a place where you can be by yourself and not heard and allow yourself to cry. Make yourself comfortable and cry. Cry till you can't cry anymore. Get some of that released. Then ask yourself, I'm going to sit with that feeling and ask yourself, where do I feel this sadness, this grief, this loneliness, this despair? Where do I feel this? Your throat, your chest, your abdomen, your pelvis, your legs. Where? You feel it predominantly someplace in your body. You might feel it all over, but predominantly you feel it somewhere. Focus on that place. And if this is a big deal, it's going to be painful to do this. But you know what? It's painful to take the splinter out, but once you get the splinter out, then you can heal. You have to feel the pain. It's a messenger. I feel the pain in my throat. Okay. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Allow yourself to feel this pain, this sadness, this grief, this despair. And you ask yourself, when was the first time I ever remembering feeling this particular feeling? Not just sadness or grief or whatever, it's this particular sadness. And they're distinguishable. They are, if you allow yourself to do it. Then, depending on how you take in information, you will hear a song, you'll hear somebody talking to you, you'll hear a voice, music, whatever, and that will trigger a picture. Now, I know some people that smells do that for them, okay? They take in information initially through smells, but you go through the thing. I'm an empath, so I feel. Take the feeling, and then the feeling brings up a picture or a scene, and I can see what's going on. Don't judge what you're seeing. Just see it. Feel it. How do you feel about what you're seeing? How does that make you feel? That's what you have to ask. And it's probably going to be something that's going to go back into your very young years. If you go to the first time, because you may have felt it one time, that's your first experience, and then you felt it again and again and again. But you got to go back to the original one. You are draining an abscess. Okay, and you can just put a Band-Aid on it, honey, and maybe just open it up a little bit, but you got to get the core of that abscess, or it isn't going to go away. It isn't. Has it? Because how many years have you been doing this? A long time. I have. Because I'm not teaching you or telling you anything that I haven't done. And I'm old enough that I've done a lot, okay? So you go back to that picture, that event was taking place. And you ask, what's happening? I'll give you an example. This is really sad, really sad. This little girl grew up on a farm. And she was the youngest child, and there's a big age gap between her and her siblings. So she pretty much she was by herself. And so she didn't have anybody to talk to share things with. And she became very close to the farm animals, very sensitive woman, very, very sensitive in this lifetime, in her older age. And she's very sensitive as a child. And so she made friends. These were her playmates with a sheep. And they raised the sheep for meat. So they butchered the sheep. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what you do. It's the food chain, okay? It's what you do. We're predators. We're what you do. And as adults, we can compartmentalize, and we learn to live with things. And some people it just doesn't bother anyway. Some people it does. So this little girl had to watch and hear her friends being slaughtered, and their cries as they're being killed. And her little mind is praying to God that they don't suffer. How do you think that makes a 4 or 5-year-old think about God? Especially if you come up in a religious household. Think about that. How did she feel about herself when she couldn't protect her friends? They were her friends, and she loved them, and she could do nothing. She was powerless. Powerless. And there was nobody who would listen to her. They just told her, we're farmers. This is what we do. Well, yeah, they're right. I understand that. You understand that. We have to do that. We're mammals. We're meat eaters. But that's not how a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old little girl sees it. And she was told to be strong. Don't cry. We don't cry in this family. Put your big boy's pants on. Put your big girl's pants on. We don't do that in this family. There was nobody to hear this little girl. There was nobody to put their arms around her and soothe her pain. Well, they didn't, because that's the way they were brought up. Okay, that's the why. Doesn't help anything, that's why. The story. But in that moment, that little girl made some evaluations about herself. She could not be trusted. She didn't stand up for her friends. The things you love die and leave you. I can't be trusted because I didn't do anything to try and save my friends, the people that I love, the things that I love. What kind of person am I that I do that? And yes, when you're little, you do think about those things. I know I did when I was little. Maybe not everybody, but some of us do. And that little girl internalized all of that. I'm not good enough. And if I love something, they're going to leave me. They could get killed. All of these thoughts, irrational, they're still there. And so you stuff them down. Or maybe you don't totally understand it. But when you stuff, it stays. It stays with you. So that's the what. That event, those thoughts, the protective mannerisms, beliefs, behaviors that we take on in that instant stay with for our entire life. The postulate, the vow. I am never going to love anything again, because when I do, it gets killed. If I love something, it dies. Therefore, will I die if I let something love me? All of those kind of thinking. And you have to find them. What you thought at that moment. The belief that you took on. Because the beliefs are what rules our lives. There are rules. And they have to be weeded out. So that's why you have to ask yourself, how do you feel when you watch the picture? Are you feeling angry? You can have a ton of feelings, shame, grief, sadness, fear, anger, all of them. And we have to help that little girl, that little boy, realize that they didn't do anything wrong. Because when you think you did something wrong, then you have shame and guilt. And shame and guilt are a heavy, heavy burden to carry. And they are the material that makes up that 20-foot wall that's 10 feet deep that we put up around ourselves. And until we let go of that shame, that guilt, which is the cement that keeps the damn bricks in the wall, we're not going to be able to bring that down. So we keep feeling that story, and we help that little girl or that little boy or teenager, whoever it was, understand, put a context to it that we see as the adults we are now, because now we do have power if we choose to use it. We do have our words if we choose to use them. We can stand up and fight now if we choose to, but we couldn't then. We didn't have the tools. And there is no shame in that. And there's no reason to feel guilty. Powerless. Powerless. We have to help them see that. And we can take back our power. Take it back in this lifetime. And even then, you can change that movie. How you release some of that stuff. Once you recognize it's the guilt and the shame, right? You have to recognize what you've got. And then you can scream out, see that standing there at the fence watching them being slaughtered. You can scream and release some of that. And if you're by yourself and you're in a house and there's nobody else there, or you're out walking and doing a meditation, you can allow yourself to scream. And you can scream out the injustice that you couldn't scream out then. You can scream out your pain. You can fight back. That can help too. You have to release this. You have to recognize that you were angry, because when we were little, often we were told we can't be angry. You certainly can't be angry with adults. Get your head knocked off your shoulders or shunned. All of the things that, you don't have to hit somebody in order to abuse them. Probably the worst thing you can do to somebody is to ignore them. They do that in some cultures, shunning. When our parents ignored us and our feelings, made us feel little, that was shunning. So you go back and you help that little kid see what it is and what happened. And they have nothing to be ashamed of or blamed for. And then they can let go of the guilt. And let go of that belief that I'm not trustworthy. And if I'm not trustworthy, how can I trust you? And you didn't abandon them. You didn't, and you didn't betray them. Because if you can't believe that you didn't do those things or accept why you did them, then in the here and now, you are going to put up the walls to protect you from that. And you're not going to let anybody get close to you. Because if they love you, maybe they'll die or you will. Yeah. You got to go back there and let go of those beliefs. Change them. We're not perfect. We're not. And we're going to make mistakes and we're going to learn from them. And then we have to learn what abandonment is and betrayal and how to use trust. We do that in this time, this lifetime, now. We have to clear the mixed messages that are still coming through. We have to close that off. And that's how you do that. You find a source, because this is like an abscess, okay? Now you can try and drain that abscess, but you've got to find the core, and you've got to take the core out of the abscess. Then it'll heal itself. That's how you get rid of the core. And you may have to do this many times, because there's more than one event, different kinds of events that made up these beliefs. First time it happens, you know, it's in pencil. Second time it's in ink. Third time it's written in stone. Might break the stone. But you can do this. You got to find the source. It's the difference between the why and the what. And we can't blame, we got to stop blaming. We just have to find out what it was. What was missing? Fix it. Stop blaming. We can't blame ourselves. We can't blame anybody else. It just was. Just was. Everybody has a story. Some worse than others. Can't change the story. But you can let go of it and stop reading it. That's how you do it. Need some help? I'll help you learn how to do this. You can do it. I like to teach people how to heal themselves. Nobody can heal you but yourself and God. We're just guides. The rest of it are just guides. You and God is what does the healing. Heal yourself. You feel a lot better. Well, bye. It's always good talking to you.